Okay, I'm going to hope that that is up and running okay. You can let me know if not. So I think it's important to remember that behind each of these data points, there are people. And I'm just going to talk you through how we involve study participants and the public in the data access process and how we support you through this in terms of what your responsibilities are. So you've seen this overview already today. My name's Kirsteen Campbell and I'm the Communications and Engagement Officer, and I look after the Public Involvement Programme at the UK LLC. And what we're going to talk about just for the next 5 minutes or so is how the public are involved in the process, what you as applicants need to do and what guidance we provide. And then just at the end, I'll let you know as well that we have a data use register, and your projects, if approved, will be featured on that. So stage 3 is where we have the kind of approval process. And as you've heard already from Stella, there are 3 different ways or pathways that your application goes to get approval. And the bit that I'll talk about here is the Data Access Public Review Panel. So what are they responsible for? So they meet every month and they review the lay summary and they'll provide feedback on that until it's approved by the majority of the panel. So we kind of accept that sometimes getting a lay summary can be quite challenging depending on the complexities of the research, but we work as a group together to try and make sure that the majority of the public will understand what your project is all about. And this group will also review your public involvement plans, and we will take into account that not everyone has the same ability and the same resources to be able to involve members of the public in their project. So we do actually take that into account. And then they will also look at what are the anticipated benefits if your research comes to some conclusions. And then we will provide any feedback and guidance where we think that's required on those particular elements. So the researchers will be invited to give a presentation to the members of the public and the study participants. And this just kind of is a quick run through of what you would need to do. So every researcher will have their own time slot so that you're not listening to what everyone else is proposing. So you need to turn up your Zoom time slot on time so that it doesn't impact on anyone else attending the meeting. And we only need one person to present, so there doesn't need to be a team effort. It's really just one person who comes along, and they will talk for up to 5 minutes about the project, and we advise that you focus on the lay summary content there. So it's making sure that what you're communicating to the panel is understandable to them. And you may be relieved to hear that we don't want any PowerPoint at all. It's really just a conversation. And after you've given your talk, the panel have the opportunity to then ask questions about your project, just to get a little bit more clarity on what you're planning, but also what those potential benefits might be. So we do provide you with some guidance. It's not lengthy. It's really just a few tips and tools to help you write the best lay summary that you can from the start, hopefully, and then it won't need too much work as we move through the application process. So it might just be some tips and tools. I think it can be quite easy to stray into things that you don't even feel would be jargon, but for a member of the public, they perhaps don't realise exactly what you're trying to communicate. So we have a few tips and tools there. And also, as well as the lay summary, we have some guidance on what to expect from the Data Access Public Review Panel meeting itself. So how to prepare for that, what happens during that meeting, and then also what happens afterwards. We ask you to think about these questions here to help frame writing your lay summary. It's quite straightforward, but it may be slightly different from what you are used to writing, and maybe it's a different setup. So we ask you to use these as a guide. And these are just a couple of examples really on how having a proper kind of thorough look about what you're writing and how you're writing it can make a difference. So you can see in the left here, the before, it's one kind of big chunky paragraph with a little bit of information in there about what the project is all about. And then afterwards, it's about maybe splitting things up into more manageable chunks for people to read and making the language more straightforward. I have a couple of examples here. So if you're talking about pre-existing health conditions, you could just translate that into had other health problems. And then even words like prioritized could be someone who is put first on the list, depending on the context of what you're writing. And then aspects of people's lives could actually just be information on people's lives. So I think they're good examples of words that you would think are perfectly fine to include in your lay summary, but actually we're looking to really get to an 11 to 15-year-old reading age group. So we do need to kind of think about how to make this as easy as possible for people to connect with. And then on public involvement, when you lay out the plans for what you're doing with members of the public in terms of your project, we're actually looking for specifics. So not to say that somebody somewhere runs the public involvement and they'll kind of take care of that. So we're actually looking for some of the detail. So if you are fortunate enough to have someone who does work on patient and public involvement where you are, then ask them to help write this section for you, and then we'll have a better idea of what the plans are. And then finally, just on the UK LLC's website, we have a data use register. So once research projects are approved, and obviously some may be declined for different reasons, but approved projects will be put up on our data use register. You can see the format here. And then on the left-hand side, you can actually click the application ID, and then the detail of your particular approved project will pop up. And that will have the lay summary in that, and it will also have a list of all of the data sets that you will be accessing as a result of your project. For any projects that happen to be declined, we won't have that level of detail. So it would really just be the application number and the organization name. So there wouldn't be any project details coming up for projects that are declined. And that is how we involve study participants and members of the public in the data access process, and how we can support you. So we're going to move next. As I stop sharing my screen, we're going to move on to Jackie.